Buddy.
Two party, that one. Well, so, oh yeah. Sanje Cheda Soja Sona La Chanjo Bado Tane Japso Daje Chijin Jibe Sonanje Jola Benja Sanje Jobara Isho Sanje Cheda Soja Son Chanjo Bado Tane Japso Chen Daje Chijin Jibe Sona Jola Benja Sanje Jobara Isho Sanje Cheda Soja Son Chanjo Bado Tane Japso Chen Daje Chijin Jibe Son Dola Benja Sanje Jobara Show Dayantan Gade Gade Paran Gade Parasum Gade Body So Dayantan Gade Gade Paran Gade Parasum Gade Body So Dayantan Gade Gade Paran Gade Parasum Gade Body So Well, so any simja tamja to the Tobjalana Machiba Sanje Kumaran, but Chile Tobacha. The each of the Emme Chanjusam Labjana Tush the Nyamta, now a single symbol of two or Tujesho Manoa go to and Kazu Baba the Takaja Gasora Lojong Kebotabo. And shown any Caso de Kesichi was like several Lojong Kebotabo, Chicasole Junju Shun that Teshi to be sometimes.
And so we begin, of course, by setting our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit sentient beings. Knowing that to attain that state, we must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings, we must have a good knowledge of what they are about. To gain that knowledge, we must again gain the necessary information, and that comes from an unmistaken source. And so it is with this in mind that we have this opportunity this morning to listen to what is regarded as one of the kings of mind training texts, the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, as composed by the great master Shantideva.
Set up and Shaji Chani, yes, I mean, you Yam Shaka do so and Kula Chugu will make a torture so much, but most of them show you sometimes.
And as usual, then we also set up the merit field in the space in front. That is, in actual fact, our own root guru, but in the aspect of the Guru Munindra, Buddha Shakyamuni Buddha, who is one face and two hands. It has the right hand in the earth-touching mudra and the left hand in the meditative equipoise mudra, holding an almond bowl filled with nectar. And all around us are all kind mother sentient beings without exception.
What did I say? And Ranga Duna said, Lama Tuba Ombote, Chivo Om Kaba Temba Amo, Tuga Hong of Yigasum to set up, Tuga Honle was a part of Mebatuna, Shingram Janeva, Yeshiva, Ola Dachaba Chantana, Yeshiva Lama Tuba on Namachanati, and Chula Okasa only Ongo, Chula Machada, Mijaba Uki, what did you come by?
So, bringing our attention to the figure of Shakyamuni again, we see that the Buddha is marked by the syllable Om at the crown, A at the throat, and Hong at the heart center. And from that heart center, countless rays of light emanate, going out into the pure realms, inviting back the wisdom beings and the empowering deities. The wisdom beings dissolve into the central figure, and the empowering deities confer the nectar of empowerment, some of which then overflows at the crown, spontaneously producing the figure of Akshobhya.
어디래자 아니 어디래서 공부시 아니 랑가 타고도 마겐심제 탐제게 아니 레두스도 동안 나시마 간이 발라 아니 나 가서데 남바 나라존네 신체 남주여데 미 남주여데 게자 아니 라마투베 온보게 아니 저 구손도 그 연된 텐시방에 당에다와 이제도 뭐도게 또 나라조 그리스케와는 dinna 신체인데 타요 마겐심제 dinna 시게 되고 공부시
And all these sentient beings surrounding us are all part of the 6 realms of existence. And even though that is so, they're able to cognize this situation with a human intelligence. And so, like us, they are able to appreciate the wonderful qualities of the enlightened being and thereby generate with the different aspects of faith, the pure faith, the faith of conviction, and the manifest faith.
어디래자 아니 되네 어디를 공부시 아니 저 가서데 라마투베 온부 구송도 연대 템백하네 아니 가서데 다 당에다와 이제 원도 그때봐 아니 랑게 타고디요 마겐 심제 탐제게 아니 대다 탐제게 아니 대화도자 대화 미디어 동네르다 동네 찍지라 찍튀는 용티네지 어다 대달래 아니 미세베 니제게 아니 동네 나도라 미세베 니제게 대화도 된도 그 잡아게 그러와 아니 당안에 신게 저 가서데 제 가서데 대다 심제 대다 탄자 아니 저거 대화다 대외주다 되나 지뭐 대화 주제 대화 쇼지 공부시 아니 동네다 동네주다 대화를 지뭐를 대화 주제 대화 쇼지 안 대화 다게 대다 저 아무 두고 뭐 징글랍도서 공부시 안 당안에 저 심제 대다 탄자자 아니 저 가서데 거서도 대화다 대외 주다 다 대화 대외 주다 받자 동네 주자 동네 매바 대화도 민전 심어를 민저 주지 민저다 대대저 라마 두면 뭐 챙길라도 공부시 어다 대다 용화들래 아니 저기 거서도 일이 차단되려 따님제 내마도는 그 용해 걸어 매버려 아니 심제 대다 탄자자 아니 일이 차단될 저 따님을 내나 집어를 내봐 주지 내봐 쇼치 내가 다게 지가 대다졌나 봐. 라마 두면 뭐 챙길라도서 공부하셔 때나 라면 두고 뭐 아니 고송돌라 두세나가 위해서 제가 밤에 위에 두세에서 까부셔 쳐가지고 보네. 랑다 타고도 요 막에서 집어내 마시나 토마메 되고 저 개발도 처매시 개발 처매시가 또 개발자 라지 심지 탐지 개발 받을 줄 되거든. 나니니 되어서 섭도 공부하셔. 양조 din내시 삼로 당와라 때는 아니 두세 세부도 쉬셔가지고 밤에 아니 저 처매시가 또 개발자 라지 심지 탐지 줄에 계속 선사원들의 공부하셔.
So then it's through our recollection of these wonderful qualities of enlightenment, of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, skillful means, etc., that we and all the sentient beings around us develop this sense of really deep, intensive faith in the teachings themselves. But we are also so much aware of not just ourselves, but especially of all sentient beings being so desperate for a happiness. But being bereft of that happiness, and that also they're wanting to avoid all suffering, but being inundated by this suffering. And even just a short contemplation on this reality brings forth this sense of really wanting to develop that sense of happiness for them, and to kind of really find their lack of, or their being inundated with suffering is unbearable. And so we bring forth this sense of really strong sense of loving kindness and the compassion. And so how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the cause of happiness. May this be the case. And I will see to it that it is the case. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May this be the case. I will see to it. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had the happiness that knows no suffering and the excellent bliss of liberation. May this be the case. I will see to it that it is the case. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. And so we make these powerful supplications to the Guru Buddha, but we are also keenly aware that there's a great deal of discrimination. And with that, we have to really also pray and include the immeasurable quality of equanimity in our entreaties, and how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could abide in equanimity free from attachment and anger that holds some close and others distant. May this be the case. I will see to it that it is the case. So, Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. And through the power of our supplications, then, the 5-color descending nectar light begins to flow from the Buddha's heart center down through us and all sentient beings, with the white light, the purifying white light, being predominant at the outset, purifying all the negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated since beginning this time, and particularly targeting the obstacles to our being able to develop the 4 immeasurable thoughts to their perfection. Secondly, another pulse of light comes, this time with the yellow golden light predominant. And this is the bestowing, endowing light, which endows us with that potential to really quickly realize the 4 immeasurables and to integrate that into our life and behavior.
What is it? What is tanda de ngozo tanda ngara zo chojo ji nangmi insal ji zhongsha tanda de jimi sing ji an di che do de kaso what's the jimi ya jimi ne jimi Jamie sing ji Jamie Cormins was it what the legend zhongsha dan an di che do kong ba ji xie zhong de be chenga 상계 좀 되대 단다 것도 되려 검대와 될 믹제네 아니 단다 저도 뭐란게 쇠배 아니 심지어 천대까지 요바 있나요 안 되다 단자 감수 좋아해도 가봐게 저 동을 타대 아니 대적을 리더도 대바치 비게 신이데 체네 아니 사조 람가도 산제 공부뉴도 토베게 어떤 데가 뭐가 제체네 또 몇층아 참고적 장고.
So that I would just pause for a moment to offer some prayers on behalf of one of our Dharma friends, Jamie, who has passed away, obviously very recently. And we will recite a mala of the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, since we are visualizing the Buddha as our merit field in front, and that we really make a very strong prayer that wherever Jamie has been reborn in any of the 6 realms, may they be freed from the suffering there, attain a precious human rebirth, and meet with a qualified Mahayana teacher like His Holiness, and be able to proceed quickly along the paths and grounds to enlightenment. Indeed, whatever the sentient beings have passed away, that the same goes for them.
디 공부해도 아니 당부 딜리스 거다 심지 탐제도 안게 타고도 막게 심지 탐제 요와 와다 디 공부해 아니 심지 탐제도 산제 공부 요원이도 맞던 지금도 토바 지 삼사 공부해 아니 된데게 장주가 심 된데게 겁네 된데게 두바디 아니 다외진과 약간 저랑 닝가 가도 다외진과 약간 줘서 삼사체 다 심지어 탐제가 돈도 산제 공부 요원이도 맞다나 지금도 토바 지기 삼사 공부시 아니 된데게 아니 된데 다와디 칸라 도지 가고 쟁가 봐지 야 랑데 공부시 공부시 아니 대체 안단도 되는 먼저 세대가 또 투표 공부 뒤 투가래야 말아서 다른 공부는 시전에 아니 다외진과 약간 와지다 도지 가고 쟁가 봐 요게 된 거지 뒤 타고도 또 몇성아 어머니 마음이야서 요게 랑게 닌가 그들래 다와 가서 다외진과 약간 와 뒤도 도지 가고 쟁가 뒤 타고도 또 몇성아 다에도 어머니 마음이 요게 된 거지 공부시.
And so setting up the particular meditation here, we of course really rededicate ourselves very, very intensively to really attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, Jamie included, of course, and all sentient beings, and that we really want to concentrate on that mind of enlightenment, which is now symbolized by a moon disk mandala, which is placed at our heart center and indeed at the heart center of Shakyamuni Buddha, and all the sentient beings all around us who are also taking part here. And placed on that disc, on that moon disc mandala, is a standing 5-pronged white Vajra. And then that is encircled, surrounded by the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha. Muni Muni Mahamuni Soha. But very important that if we can, to meditate on emptiness and to understand that ourselves and the situation is completely empty of inherent existence. It cannot even exist at the atomical level. And from that emptiness, if we can bring forth the moon disc mandala and the 5-pronged Vajra with the surrounding mantra.
And then and Naranzo Tago Market Simja Tamjeg Tugala and the Tao to Jetsangaba and Tombetsanga Yujua and the Dilla, there's a part of Meba Trend and Kuson to get Jingilapsus water conversation.
That as we recite the name mantra, it's as if then the particular the moon disc and the Vajra, the heart center of Shakyamuni Buddha, is kind of really, how do you say, empowered, that the light starts to emanate from the mantra itself and from the heart center of Shakyamuni Buddha and enters into ourselves and all other sentient beings, so that our mantra and our Vajra and so on is now pulsating with light as well, that we kind of like really have that connection.
Yeah, I know.
We really feel that the blessing is there.
No, to be some title monument, and the Tumbe Tugane, and the title of monument Munia saw part of Meba journey. Because a part of Meba journey, because multiplies it, part of Meba journey, and around the Ranga Simja Tamjig, Tugaluve, title monument Mamunia saw Tilla, Patimsa, Tawata Doji there, part of Meba journey, around the Ranga Simja Tamjig, Tawadoji, Zangabatilla, Matim Samsachan. Multiplies.
So that, that the through our reciting of the mantra, then it's like countless multiplications of the mantra itself are sent out on those rays of light coming out from the heart center of Shakyamuni Buddha, and they dissolve into the Vajra and the moon disc, etc., at our heart center. From our heart center, they similarly, the light rays multiply and head out into dissolve into all the sentient beings all around us. Into their hearts.
No, past Tambo this compassion. Because the round doing said the Lama to be on the Tugali, Tawa to Jetsanga Batan, and the Betsanga Dele, we a part of Meba training. Around a part of Meba training, not part of Meba, the Betsanga part of Meba. Doji Zangaba Padumeba Padumeba and round the Rangatung the Simja Tamjaka Tao Doji Zangabata and Tumbe Zanga Comjera Dilapatin. What did the commercial?
And so then the light initially comes from the moon disc mandala and the Vajra at the heart center of Shakyamuni Buddha. Countless versions of the mantra and the light come and they dissolve into our similar arrangement that we have at our heart center and all the sentient beings as well, and dissolves into that.
What the terms of part of what and
so then we start the recitation of the mantra.
Dayanda o muni ma muni yeso 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 大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼。玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑。大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑，大呀达我摩尼摩尼玛摩尼耶娑， Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Tayatawa Muni Muni Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai 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 Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Tayatawa Muni Muni Tayatawa Muni Muni Mahamuni Yaswahai Jawadi Jodota Lama Sanja Tujana Tuachi Namayulabati Salam Gomara Show. Hola, so. Hola, so. Hola, that lama to be on board commission banganya. What I got what say, what some cavaliers.
Shoktan Gyatang Yaptung Apke, Gila de Sumba.
Hola, so.
Nova Chebala, Yambe, Kobala Kombala.
Hola, so. Tango to that, no. Oh my God. That's Sumba never chabala chimenya soba kombala sumcha. Because a ninja top yila chaba, ninja top yila chaba. Tue ju gaba. And then me to bachuna, because a rangi never saba watch. That tambo de la ninja top yila chaba de la sumchen. Semjen kachi mishebe onje rangla nyoba cheba. Mishebe rawa mishebe sa rang sonam shenla nyoba cheba ta mishebe rang sa sena ta mishebe onje so le seba yungu yuna sena ane shenla nyoba cheba la ane ja hang sang ko ma sa ngosa mishela ta dena Tela as a ninja chow, that the name was a tongue of the Lingenda of the Carriers, and what that ninja unit was ninja chow watch. What the subject teacher?
So we're looking at a main headline here, a third one. We're saying that we really need to habituate to the patients that will absolutely never have a thought of harming. And this is 3 subheadings. The first is a means by which we generate compassion. Secondly, putting a stop to the causes of anger. And thirdly, to reflect on it being our fault when the undesirable occurs or arises. The first of these, and the means of really developing compassion, has 3 subheadings again. And the first of these is that some people, through not knowing, will harm themselves. Secondly, some people, through misunderstanding, will even kill themselves. So it's no surprise, or it's not amazing that they will harm others. And thirdly, because of those 2 points, then how to apply or how to generate compassion.
Cousin Shuba, Narazo, Nomo Kiawan de la Jusum Yodes, Nomo Kia Jusum de Chick Nomo Pachache. And because of the environments of Koyuche. And Ranget Sushi to Samlo Matawa. Latene and Nomo Kio Yodes. Ta Nomo Bachang also let them boys a year. And it was Nomo Koyu year and was a call by Inza. That got it some of them, that Sushi Mayimbe Samlo Dene, Sushi the Mayimba Samlotan and Nomo Kigo Yoba Inza, that ding was a Sushi the Samlotan egg. That Sushi the Samlotan in a Twitter to Samlotan in a and Nomo de Cartugores. And a Dela and a nega dunga mayo ata, and a Mao Bala Mutin dunga mayo at that Guch to Tudwa. And a D on the Janata got Geshe Bush Legudwa.
And so these particular points relate to what we were speaking about earlier in previous sessions, when we talked about the main causes for the arising of mental affliction. One being that we have the imprints on our minds. secondly, that we are, we're in the environment that promotes the arisal of mental affliction. And thirdly, through an incorrect attitude or incorrect thinking on our part. And that, we look at the first two and we can see, well, as beginners and so on, we obviously have a lot of imprints on our mind that are going to prompt mental affliction to arise. Secondly, we're in cyclic existence. It's the very nature or the very environment, in which mental affliction can thrive. But thirdly, that the point which points to incorrect thinking or incorrect attitude on our part, that's where we can do something about. And that's where we can really work. And we should really concentrate on swapping incorrect thinking and attitude for correct thinking, correct attitude. And in this way, we can put a stop to mental affliction. And that means we can really start working on putting a stop to temporary suffering, as well as putting stop to suffering into the future.
environment digade ani ko nyomong de tonjela ma jo nyomong gejela to de yong do ta ka de diga nga jamba da ningji kesa da de ge ani tonjela to de jo de ge do yong de ge do ka so so chu da to ba sam tang to na ya di ko yu digade ya geje ma ja tonjela to yong do
And so that when we really begin the process of transforming our attitude, transforming our thinking, then the environmental source of mental affliction, which is one of those three that's mentioned, that whereby it sort of creates an environment in which mental affliction can arise. Now, we can actually work on that very effectively as well, in that we can transform that into an environment where love and compassion is more likely to arise, and that thereby turn inconducive conditions into conducive conditions for us to cultivate that love and that compassion.
Dimitra wote rang chuda tumba samlo tang tang madang la rali gidwa rang chuda tumba samlo tang ina dige ganga chongela to dige nyomong ge gejela de nyomong pangye ge tabla to dige rang chuda tumba samlo madang ina dige ganga nyomong ge jula to dige ta juda to da mondo sing dige dimitra wote rang chuda tumba samlo tang to da matula rali gidwa.
So it really is that correct thinking and incorrect thinking are like a key, and that with the correct key of correct thinking and correct attitude, we can really ensure that we are promoting conditions, conducive conditions for not only developing correct thinking and loving kindness and compassion, but for also countering mental affliction and even overcoming mental affliction. But that thinking, if it's incorrect thinking, becomes a key for the promotion of mental affliction and incorrect thinking. So we have to be careful how we use the key of our thinking.
Da nyomo bacha de yabata mare ire ya ko kaza de suda tumba samlo tang suda tumba samlo tang na ani kaza de koyu dige de ani di nyomo pae ge kaza de nyomo ma ke ge tunjela trotu gudwa di trotu ta nyomo bacha de sabyen kambo na shile sabyen kambo ina ko nyugu ke tu ko marwa 다 누구 개발아 인지 민지 콜라 지가서데 지가 런 태고로 와 좋아 가서데 런 태고로 와 사단 류다 런다 도 태고로 와 뒤에는 누구 개고로 와 다 사면 깜보라 누구 제도고 말아도 그 먼저 그때 튕겨도 맞게 봐이나 누구 제 튕겨도 맞게 봐이나 그 바자데 가야 제면도 와 이내다 바자데 마바 이바이나 그야 그 튕겨 창소나 양고 견부로 와 여기다 연구로 와 다디 이제 동리 도배 시라고 가고 있더라도 와
And as regards the imprints, first of those conditions that that promote mental affliction, of course they're there. We can't deny that. We are beginners. We haven't, being able to eradicate at that level, through the wisdom of emptiness and so on. So therefore, but when we are correcting our thinking, transforming our thinking, and then also we are also, really turning that environment to our favor into something that's conducive for our Dharma practice. That really isolates those imprints, like a seed, like a dry seed. They're not given any nutrient or any water or any decent soil, that they will not germinate. So we have the power within our hands like that to really make sure that the imprints, until we can, such time as we can really eradicate them, that they will remain dormant, that they will not germinate, because we have the power to transform our incorrect thinking into correct thinking, and on the basis of that, to actually reanalyze and really change our perception of that environment, which previously was promoting mental affliction. Now it's countering mental affliction and promoting loving kindness and compassion.
소소 삼로 당당라 라리기도 가서나 현지가 소소라 팬도바 이마이네 소소 추다도마 마제나 살로마 추다도마 마다나 되게 너무 깨기도 와 그러다 내게나도 용거로 왔다 이 팬도바 이네 소소 추다도마 살로마다나 너무 깨기도 와 다딘자 파조도가 팬도다 내게데 추다도마 가서데 너무 깨마게데 레모다 너무 깨마게서는 랑게 추다도마 살로 땅마다 랑라랄레 되기도 와
And so, of course, that the conclusion that is drawn here is that the correct thinking is down to us. It's our responsibility. And so, whether we are harmed or whether we are benefited, it's, our perception. It's down to our own perception. And that whether or not the mental afflictions arise or a somewhat more noble attitude arises, that's down to us. The bottom line really is down to our thinking. When we are approaching the issue with correct thinking, then mental affliction has no place at all. And that we will be able to generate much more healthy attitude to that situation. When our thinking is incorrect, then we are opening the door for mental affliction to take over in that situation, and then we have no hope of a decent result out of that situation. And so whether or not we are winning or losing, or whether we are benefiting or losing, is really completely down to ourselves and down to our thinking.
디레도 다는 게 배차와는 시래 파족을 하나 ral리기나 수 팬토바 이네 아니 팬토바 들라테는 소소 녀모 깨고 말아 이네 녀모 깨기도 와 다들 소소 추다 메도 마삼도나 팬토네 녀 깨기도 와다 순네바 깨바 이네야 소소 네바 들라 가서데 지금 가서데 따단데 아니 지금 가서 따단데 아니 지금 가서데 소소로 많이 봐 간데처럼 누구도 간데처럼 누구도 디시베 돈에 삼었다네 지금 땅도 아니 순네바께 봐 이네 네바텔라텔네 너무 끼기면 도와 따티 가서는 디고 14번째 삼었다와 이네 소소 삼었다라 랄레 되고 봐대 다 못하고 그래 디 못해베 돈에 아니 아니 갑자기 자고도 뭐 유튜브에 돈에.
So an example is like when you have somebody who is, bringing some benefit your way. Now, normally speaking, that would not give rise to mental affliction from your part. But, you have to apply the correct thinking to that. Now, if somebody over there is harming you, bringing harm your way, now you also have that ability from your own thinking to ensure that mental affliction is not going to arise in a situation like that. And it's really about being able to recognize, what is the skillful response in both situations here to ensure that mental affliction never gets a foot in the door, and that we are very, very clear that when we are able to be aware and recognize the situation for what it is, then we have, the power really of being able to engage in skillful means and skillful responses.
ngarazo migi namchu sigede ta migi namchu tansa ngune de zore do migi namchu ngune tansa de ta ngune dane ke gasole chige gasa de de toyege de dewala toyege ane chige ju ane be gasa ju gaso de tubala ane gaso de de toyege ane ju ngam shushu ku tuye re che dungene toyege ane 교대 안에 가서도 지금 강남 쇼쇼게 안에 까투에 지금 다들 튕게 잡아도 지금 딜 튕게 맞대 다 되네지 가서도 남지를 저도고도 나타 밑에 남주 여스라고도.
So when we talk about human intelligence, really this is really the proper use of human intelligence. And that we can start to sculpt our own thinking so that we are moving from happiness to happiness, creating the causes, experiencing happiness and creating the causes for more happiness. And that when we can see the suffering, the cause of suffering, and make sure that we are putting a stop to that, the suffering, and creating the causes of suffering and death, using our skillful thinking and human intelligence really intensively, focused on that job. On the one hand, ensuring happiness and the continuation of happiness, and ensuring the halting of suffering and the continuation of suffering. So that's what is meant by human intelligence.
닝제 탑이라 잡아서 다그라 닝제 탑이라 잡아들라 숨전에 다가자 닝제 탑이라 잡아들라 숨전에 셈제 가지 미시베 오게라라 녀바 잡아서 그들다 녀바 잡아서 그들 당보디 미시베 노 잡아서 자왈레 방메 빼네 달란다 참말라서 녀바체 비메 라서 톱제치 남세 세주 라소체 가지 양사초 두다 미주 사와당 소는 마이 저바이 랑런 녀바 저바유.
And so that's particular outline the means by which we generate compassion. And the first thing that those subheadings was that though there are some who through not knowing will actually harm themselves. And verses number 35 and 36 cover this point. Through not being careful, people even harm themselves with thorns and other things. And for the sake of obtaining women and the like, they become obsessed and deprive themselves of food. And there are some who injure themselves through the unmeritorious deeds of hanging themselves, leaping from cliffs, eating poison and unhealthy food.
Chile Koran Nova Kedra. Koran me second the Carson, co Chile de and co sick to it. Rua. Make Chile co Sigrua. Sigrua. Koran get up at the letter. No more second the Carson Nova Kedra. Rachel Nova Kedra. That co Chile de Rua. The day in by Yasa, no more to Masanja jumped the dusty. No more Tares. Nova Ranches Tamjal Nova Kedra. To be no more dusty. Nyomo debe kansa mes chube nyomo la dasige yorte ina nyomo chingi kansa la tuwa sangi chobda dasige mares ningje tagres ta ngodo yewa cheshin go tuwa nyomo la date nyomo la kapde chago go yore rangyu la majeba sogore shengyu le majeba tapshi beju tangu go yore ina nyomo chikye sang kansa de la ani ti nyomo ngi shangwa de joba yinba yinsa kola ningje ko 야 코라 닝제 공발들 녀모니 약보려 쓰고요 말이야. 코라 다 코랑와 매바 쳐거라. 되게 아니 샬라 녀바께 그래. 아니 랑레 녀바께 그 샬라 녀바께 와도 영화 한사에 만도 소소소소레 녀바께 그도 와 수고도 와. 다 된다. 근데
So mental affliction he was pointing out is that which harms. It's in the same category as a fire. Fire has the nature of burning. Mental affliction has the nature of harming. It is afflicting. It is that which afflicts the mind. And so it is by nature harmful and harming. And that's here, that is why the Buddha himself really isolated very clearly that the enemy that we recognize is the mental affliction, right? And that's what we should really focus on when we have issue. And so it is the enemy of self, the enemy of all beings, and that's really that when we are able to recognize that we will see that compassion is the natural choice to oppose the enemy of mental affliction. And that here it's so important to be able to recognize that, because we must avoid at all costs having anger at the person. The person themselves is under the influence of the mental affliction, and therefore they are an object of compassion. And that's something that we have to hold. And of course, it's not that we are approving of that person's action, of saying that it is something good, no. But we are definitely saying that the correct response in this case is compassion and never anger.
다른 알아서 조단 다가와 지금 너밖에서 라 녀모께와 인사 아니 가사들 너밖에 섬다 되기도 와. 그 가서 알아서 가사다 아니 뒤그 녀모니들 야와 쳔마도 뒤야와 쳔마도데 아니 뒤그 녀모그 군을라는 소소로 너밖에 그 열다 아니 가사들 대체네 아니 가사들 바 갑디 자에 너밖에 섬도 닝지께 두고면 도 와. 닝지께 마도 가서나 녀모고 껴 따다 마시 맞체 녀모 껴 따다 마시 맞체 아니 가사도 녀모니 야와 쳔마도 맞체 겨셔 버다. 겨셔 버와. 다디인자 그 녀모는 껴다 녀모는 따다. 얘네 녀모 줄에 때문에 가사라 닝지 검토 맞고 고도 와.
So, this is not the way we normally behave, is it? That we, when somebody is perceived to be harming us, we go for the jugular. We go straight away and we want to counteract, their harm with harm as well. And so that's something that really has to be looked at cleanly and coolly from our side, that we must be able to differentiate between the person and the mental affliction, the way that they are under the influence of mental affliction, but the person themselves is not. So we have to make that distinction. By not making that, we are not allowing any opportunity for compassion to arise. or to even put a stop to our own mental affliction in our reactions. So that's something we must be clear on. We must be able to put ourselves into a situation, one, where we put a stop to the mental affliction, two, and that we can, replace the mental affliction with compassion. And that means that comes from being able to make that differentiation between the person and the mental affliction, so that we can counteract the mental affliction, but we reserve compassion for the person.
Because the imbaza nuje data rata nuje data ge and ba maybe onge ta to the mituba samlotane and social nova jawadi de la and but ninja come to what chigure so edre ta deleza nova jawata ba maybe nyomo onge and daji lula tani get samala soba sa dagi lula sa 다게서 르라 다니게 참아라서 참아당 춘게 보발라서베 네바 제정 가지게 다 가서 다 비메 라소바서다 루와 그래서 개바이나 비메 라소바 토베치다 비메나 개바 라소바 토베치도 다 니가라 집어 용거와 토바자베 치도 남시다 데데 동암 존에 아니 딜라테나 소소 데바도 보면도 아니 콘도사네 아니 세줄라 소바 제바다 카제 아사 뇨모 바서 뇨모 바네가 뇨모 바다 뭐이네 좀 마시 바잖아 가제 양라 초바 소소다 라시 잡아드는 용것을 좋아하다 아니 도다 카세 미초바서 사와다 아니 저거 소나마이베 디바 줘바다 소나마이베다 디바 잡쳐버들 사 제와라라 대제 군도 너바자다 세디다 세치마 강갈 폰도에 너바제 제와 유베 신기 너바제와로 초미리바다 근데 임바 인자 소소라데 너바제와 요면도 아니데 코라라다 라와메베 따땡게 요르와 근데 임바 인자 아니 콜라 콘도 산다 지금도 중나 콜라 니지 깨기도 니지 깨마도 바 임바 이나야 콘도 산다 지금도 수고야 미자 오셔보죠
So these verses then talk about, harm arising through carelessness, through a lack of conscientiousness, and that the accompanying mental affliction, that we will be harmed by thorns or being pierced by weapons, and harmed in such ways like this. That there are others who, for males to be obsessed with females, with the attaining of females. And it could be obviously the other way around, both ways. Women obsessed with men and so on, and that they will, stop eating, go on a fast and harm themselves in that way. And there are others then who mental affliction will even hang themselves, throw themselves from a cliff, take poison or eat unhealthily or unhealthy food, engage in non-meritorious negativity, and then really just place themselves in harm's way in this life and of course in future lives as well. And so in terms of that, for the harm that arises, for others, there we see that anger has no place. Anger is completely inappropriate in that case. And because we can see that what they're doing is really, it's clear that they're not under control. They're under the influence of mental affliction.
다 디저도 뭐요 삼로도 뭐요 도마 삼로다는 다 지금 내가 개발이나 아니 거기 라와 연이 개발해 라와 매니 개발해서 제바체 아니 라와 연이 개발해 라와 매니 개발해서 아니 거 라와 매니 개발에 못해온 거로와 그러와 가르스나 거라 거 녀목의 상황도 줘봐 인자 아니 거라래 라와 매바 차체네 다 너바디 개응고도 삼성 못해온 거로와 아니 라와 매겐 될라 거 콘도 사주 잡라 아니 거래 니지 개지 용거로와 용거로와 페네차샤바이나 소소게 지금 파마빈자라 소바 도산달라 소바 된데게 아니 지금 아니 这个说的他这个什么级别拿啥的中呢？아니 지금 계좌 독자들의 시 친구들의 시 소소를 지금 라바게 지금 슈와들의 중앙 인바이나 아니 지금 컨트롤 사주 잡라 때 라와 매바의 시원들 거다 지금 소소가 지금 셈마기에 나사 된데 온거 중앙에다 지금 시원들 아니 콜라 컨트롤 사주 잡라 콜라 닝제 계야다 안 뒤에도 매 상하데 가바를 매가 야가데 가바 연구래 야나디 지금 사이콜로지 서로 된데 야가지 가바도 디세저는 코 나자도 자답 지거와 코데 코 라와 매바도 싱거여와 싱거여와 와다디래 다 라와 매바도 되네 저 손녀바 저도 라와 제네 예리 제바래 매네 제바르서도 라와 매바도 ngochon데 아니 콜라 컨트롤 사주 잡라 닌지게 고급지 연구도와 디면은 녀바 제바다가 라라 삼로탄데나 아니 코 컨트롤 상고도와 이마데와 창고도 이마데와 들라 아니 야나야도 삼았다는 이미데와 세가 온게 아니 콘도 게임도
So when we're in situations like that where harm is occurring, we have to resist the discursive kind of like thought of wanting to return the harm, and that we have to be able to actually try to see the reality of the situation and ask ourselves: is our opponent, is that person acting freely under their own control? And we have to answer the fact is that no, they are actually under the influence of mental affliction in that case. We must recognize that this is the case. And so instead of anger from our side, we have to be able to access our compassion and see them as an object of our compassion, because they're not in control of what's going on. It's like a cherished relative, who maybe because of some problem or disease that they have, are engaging in very negative, harmful speech towards you, using negative words, even attacking you, wanting to hit you and so on. But you don't respond with anger. Your more natural response is one of compassion. You're thinking, oh, what medicine can I give to help them? What kind of psychological help should I be able to look for to help my dear relative here? You are looking for ways to aid their recovery. That's what your natural thought line will be. And so in this case as well, you have a person who is sick because they're under the influence of mental affliction. And so therefore, anger is never the choice, but compassion should always be your choice in a situation like this. And this needs to be practiced again and again and again.
다 미셰베 온게 뭐이 내수 미셰베 온바 인사 아니 된 미셰베 온게 아니 가리온 거사 다가 라야 쏘나 다 소소소소로 녀바께 아니 소소소 세바 용구도와 세나 아니 다시 전에 녀모 깨발라 때는 미셰베 온게 녀모 깨네 아니 미셰베 온게 아니 샬라 녀바께 왔다다 뭐사차 항상에게 말어봤어 그래서 이치기를 무슨 서프라이즈 게 말했어 항상에게 말했어 미셰데 자왈래 간세 녀모 온교베 다도 니자 쇠잖아 대세 대다 신뢰라 녀메제와 지달 줄서.
The second of those subheadings was that through misunderstanding, others will even take their own lives. So it's no surprise that they will harm others. It's nothing amazing about that at all. And that through their own mental afflictions, not being able to see the reality of a situation, and that they take the very unskillful choice of taking their own lives. And so therefore, that in a situation like that, there's no surprise at all that they will engage in harming others if they can go to that extreme. Verse number 37 states, if when under the influence of disturbing conceptions, people will even kill their treasured selves, how can they be expected not to cause harm to the bodies of other living beings?
The user, the Rotak Nomo Java Gangese, Rani Nomobe on the Juves, Tagging to what also she would get Chimutsa. Right, get Chimutsa, Sem Nebutsa. And Caso that teacher to Karine Chetu so the same Yabu you can today in the Nomokia on the Randu Nija Pamba. Nija, the social she would get Chimutsa Nija, and Novakia was 7 young to us. So whatever. They said that the Nomokia, they said that Shangi Lula, and then never measure what she does. Shangi Lula, that never might watch it. The car you go to such that you tell me, Juvias, me Juvias. That is a Kogata. That Mijuel and the Tende Yinsa, they go you the nature de Shibaton and the color that Twana Tigum to us from Middle Sheba.
And so this case is then looking at a person who, under the influence of mental affliction, will even, take their own treasured life, the one that they feel closest to, their most dear heart treasure of a self, and they will kill themselves. And so if that's the case, then there's absolutely no surprise whatsoever that they will engage in the harming of others' bodies. And that, again, anger is not the response to that. It's one of compassion, of course. And that anger is never right in a situation like that.
News now, Tonde, Kasha Sasa Sheva, Kase Pugu Seva, Pugu Pama Seva, you won't take it.
We see this on the news on a regular basis, isn't it? That where you have a father killing their children, the children killing parents, and so on, in every kind of combination, and that it's all too common.
Wife killing
a husband.
She was sway today. Manju Namju and Kambachina Roda Namda Shana was a shaggy was. Shaggy was in a rogue kind of Shego Maris. Sheva Yina, Kansa Sumbu to the door, Shego, tea, kill and Yomo Kill and Karine Chessigress.
As Master Shantideva has stated, like some of us are terrified of being in the same room as a corpse. And that he said that's not a place where you need to be scared, because the corpse is not going to do anything. What you should be really concerned about is going around with live human beings, because they have the mental afflictions within, and you don't know what they're capable of doing.
Pena Tsering Tawa, rap cast, and that during is a Tuga Jaganga, Roga Java Marwa, Miss Mochila, Yomo
Yes, we have to be really aware of that. In the world, all the kind of rape cases and the murders and so on are not perpetrated by corpses. They happen because of people's mental afflictions.
Chesa and Zabaling Gega para Magdu Jayane. And Chungsa Kimzang Baro Nyokdane, that Ganga Nyokda Ganga, the Sumbuchigi, and take a Nomola, Chuda Tuba Samlotama to Wachene, on the Gitwa.
So all of the wars and conflicts around the planet, and indeed all the domestic disputes and so on, and trouble it occurs with the people who are alive and living, and through incorrect thinking. That gives rise to all of these terrible situations.
What did it? That can just shoot that to some dance to go sem duege, Tapshi Bejutan to not consider to us. Sem Maduya Tola, some look Colamogol Kanga, some Lotan, or sem jacket on and your mochola jacket on and Martin, good and during the 10. during the jig, the cook of the Raju.
And so really it comes down to an uncontrolled mind, and that and really this is the difference really, when you have somebody who has an uncontrolled mind. It's also an unreliable, untrustworthy attitude, and that they can be very friendly in the morning, but be completely distant and unfriendly in the evening. That things will change. So this also is, very much the case of whether the uncontrolled mind, of course, is that which is open to mental affliction. The controlled mind is that which protects from mental affliction. And that here, this is make that important distinction.
Tani jeng ozo nami da bin ja da zhongbo da de zong dangbo zong de ha ho zong ani zong ba daga de ge zha xie dan ji cik bei ju dang dan ji ge ani ji ge ani ji ge ga sa sam lo dang dang da ji ga so de chu de ma de wa sam lo dang de ani ma zhe de goodbye me wa chen zhou guo de yong bu duo Konchok yeah, 당부 용도 다 할로다 지금 셈벤je 오제 용어다 마토데 굿바이 람니 마도야지 데레젠다 셈마기와 차네 용도 가서 거 사무당다지기 아니 찍들 응원련 제단지기다 개바쇼네 거 용도도 거 용어 경어도 다 데레레도 콜레지 가서라 거 뒤에 다 녀몽게 가서다 고급 테스트나 고급 승비도 와 고급 테스트나 고급 승비도 와 다디 그것도 가서 뭐트베 토네 신베 토네 아니 추다 좀 삼로 다다 계시 뭐 그제 이마지 뭐트 와지래도 와
I see this play out in so many kind of family gatherings where initially everybody meets in the same house and there's all very much hail fellow, well met, and hello, and how are you? But it doesn't take long sometimes for things to go sour when somebody says the wrong thing, or there's a complete and utter disagreement in the way people think, so that quickly there will be no goodbyes even when people leave. They're so angry, and that they have everything is completely blown up. And that's really down to thinking, isn't it? It's really this capacity to be able to either control or not control your thinking. And so because you really are aware that whenever the mental afflictions are always going to grab the opportunity if it's presented to them. And so one has to be really aware of that.
다 숨바 데나 데라 아사 닝제 자리고 다 데네 임바 인사다 가르치고도 다 가서는 다 타마 다그 가서는 가서 탁주를 가르치고서 다들 닝제 과야면서 탑시 민도 소리다 그러다 다들 닝제 자와리서 다 닝제 제과하면서 신 탑시 개민도 왔어 그러다 가서 지 가서데 문에 전에 그저 뭐 유튜브에 저 닝제 유래도 왔어 닝제 유래서다 걸어서는 자원인데 지금은 뒀어 중나다다 닝제 공부다 닝제 공부도 걸어서는 지금은 뒀어 다 중나 가르쳐서 닝제 공부도 뒀어 닌제 공부도 다 되나 닌제 자와리 관에서 자와래 녀모 개베 대다고 다소 라조 슈바는 닌제 잘라 맞잖아 초아지와 지타세스
And so then the third of those subheadings is that then because of that then really how appropriate it is to apply compassion. And that really, in these situations when people harming themselves, killing themselves even in a situation, that what is it that we should do? What is it that we should respond with? What's our recourse? Here it has to be compassion, isn't it? When you boil it down, it has to be compassion. They have to be an object of compassion. When we know the actuality of the situation, compassion is the only choice, the only valid choice in a situation like that. So verse number 38 touches on this, where it says, even if I cannot develop compassion for all such people who through the arisal of disturbing conceptions set out to try and kill me and so forth, the last thing I should do is to become angry with them.
어디 다 라라 라와 메바체는 호라라 라와 메바체는 아니 저 메바를 아니 녀몽 깨고나 녀몽 깨베 대답고 대답고서 다 라니자 소소소소에 써봐서 다 써봐라서 소소 너바 개발서 용어되다 된데라 슈브되도 슈바 대달라 니지 개와 릭세 다 된데 이마상 당원에 전에 그 지금 뭐서 미 삼로 당신 게 지나 들 니지 개서리 샤스 니지 개와 니지 개나 다 뭐냐 좀 제도스 릭세 다 계세 니지 개 두고 문도네 다 삼로 그때다 다 소소를 니지 개게 라는 누바지 당근 문도네 맞제 나야 대달라 초조와 지타지다 초나다 싸우는 지금 말했어.
So here is talking about a situation where, you know, others who kind of are completely out of control and have fallen under the influence of the mental afflictions, and that they are coming to actually kill me, not just to harm, but to kill me even. And that still there, you know, that the only response is one of compassion, because they are not in control of what they're doing, compassion towards the person. But even in that case where it's very difficult to generate like really genuine, you know, compassion in a situation like that, above all, we must at all costs avoid anger in a situation like that. Never, never, never resort to anger.
这个么都是我得送到这当然是我说米这个东那个拿的吧呢米的东那个拿的呢我说东那拿了我说他这个是谁就嘛了吧哦他人家是呢叫了吧他第一的他东那就了就一想完的东那就一想完的就对吧搞了你把的你去给多吧结果了他可是等的东那有啊的东那就我们我都说到用这个有了吧 Then is that don't get not then, don't get you taken tilla, Niji Kegore. That's a master, don't get Jewish want to do it. You can delay Niji Kegore. You tell it, then they would demand the majority of Jawacha de Orwa.
So when somebody is, you know, manifestly suffering, it's, you know, very quite good. Quite easy to be able to really generate compassion towards them. We can see that suffering that's manifest. But what we need to expand the range of our compassion and to also see that the person who is creating the cause of suffering, that they are also just as valid an object of compassion for us, that they are both you know, in one is suffering, the other is creating the cause of suffering. They are both valid objects of my compassion. And one must really train the mind to see that both are in need of my compassion. That you know, one is suffering the ripening of that cause of suffering into the suffering that is manifest now. The other, it's just that the suffering hasn't ripened yet. They are causing that suffering, and then in the future it will ripen. And so really, it's just a matter of time. You really have to see them both as necessary objects of my compassion.
근데 맞잖아. 가브레 가리 용거스나 지금 동행이 나 되게들 닝제게 동행이 주드부들 콘도 사이드는 용 되기도 와. 대도 먼저 조당 마시 봐 샤되기도 와. 是吧？本来家下边这个，本来这个先把人家他这个没这个，他先把这个塞吧东啊，这个先把人呢塞吧东吧说了是呢，我说塞鱼，他塞的他人家东塞的了，啊看他人家上啥去，人家的塞根的东根的了，我说靠着啥的全部多，用这个的，他搞的这个用这个做当的心里面大是吧？用这个做当的心里面呢。 세사 다 안에 동사게 될다 닝제다 이이 버체 디 지게 강사 될라야 닝제 다디 유튜브 되게 여러 닝제 될라 닝제 용도에 중국으로 다 된대 잡아이나 아니 고 저거 컨트롤 시험한테 전에 현라 너바 개와 될래 아니 고 닝제 용사치 근데 유튜브 되게 여러 닝제 아 거래 컨트롤 사이에 컨트롤 시험 너무 시험도 고 라면에 제도 디지그래라 딜라 때는 무드는 동안 이거 유튜브 되게 도
And so, of course, if not, then we're going to have this discriminating attitude whereby, we are, have compassion for the one who is suffering and anger for the one who is causing suffering. And that, this is not a skillful way of seeing things. It's like, when we see that somebody who's killed, they evince compassion from us, but the killer is automatically anger arises towards them. And we can see now, we have to see that this is incorrect, and that both have to be an object of compassion for us, and because one is suffering, the manifest suffering now, the other is just creating the cause of suffering, and that they are going to have to experience the ripening of that in the future. And so they should both be equally an object of our compassion. And that's so important. And we also say, if we're discriminating in that sense and having anger towards the harmer or the killer, then we're just also perpetuating the cause of suffering for ourselves even, and because of that anger. So you can see it's an unskillful choice on many levels.
我在这儿，他我这我这这个连这个做当的，都做上了德国，就啥子呢？这我没那么就这我知道，这不了让要嘛是吧？但就一个都啥嘛，现在这不了让没对，哎，就这啥都过这不的让没我用的个的。用这个多，他在这因为啥？我他感觉在这个做当团的上了当一边呢，过他就看着啥的，牛毛小王这个聊这个聊我接这个的了。我来讲呢，这个东岸用这个了，你这这个要把能性给，东岸他这个说的，他这个东岸个居住工的了，这能性你就结过去，他。结果这个当做当团的用过一些的多，他对我说连这个南下开零个几百钱的，是吧？连这个南下开零个几百钱的都过一些的多。
So it's very important that we place this in the context of the law of cause and effect. That we know that the results there are very definite and clear. If we don't meet with the result if we haven't created the cause, but of course if we have created the cause, it just does not disappear. It's very clear. And so therefore we have to be much more conscientious about what causes we're laying down on our own mind stream, and to understand that the person who say gets angry from that mental affliction, then they engage in harm, which creates the suffering. And so we have the compassion towards the one who is the subject of that suffering, but we must also extend compassion for the one who is creating the causes of that suffering. This is a logical conclusion if we accept the law of cause and effect, that compassion is the right response for both in that situation.
对对，俺其他这不了让要嘛，这不中在本来下东岸娘这个节吧，呢，可能个东岸娘啊，对了点呢，娘们个想法都就嘛说呢。东岸娘啊的，见起来娘们想法的就嘛说，娘们个想法的就嘛说呢，安尼可东岸他妈家这个多，可他早这个多，但你把这个的，目前的东岸娘一个，他就是做这个多，做多，他的那现在的差钱说的多，我来讲呢，你把这个的了，别他个说差钱说的是多，我来讲呢，你这介绍有忙有这个说的多，
And so, like we can see in the context of the law of cause and effect, that the resultant stage, that the result kind of has no kind of validity or no volition at that stage. It's going to ripen once the conditions are there. And so, we being aware of that, we are when we respond to the harmer, that we do not allow mental affliction to take control, and we operate through compassion. Now, not only are we, benefiting from that, but we're also putting a stop to the cause that, give rise to that mental affliction. and that, but on the other hand, the one who is harming is creating the cause of suffering and perpetuating their own suffering on into the future. And as such, that even over and above the compassion we have for the victim, we must have even more compassion for the perpetrator in a situation like that.
Ruata, Tuzu Ramba, and Dilatene, Nomo, Tema Magiveg, Tapsi Tone, and call a young Morte to other, and the Shukcheta Mando, Tapsi Karicho, Tigate, or Jajata Macheto Mache. Gaza Coral Ninja, Gaza Ninja does a quick to judge about or dig what I call a Jabjo, Delicate and Marwa. Gaza Coral Ninja, Tapa Ninja, Mutin Tunga Saga to Tunga Julato, Ninja Missive Ninja or Metal, young Maranzo. Oh, that didn't need to get the Gabuche Kejamarwa. Couldn't you get a quad simjer? There was to get Dungam, Mitubare, in a young Koram Mashimomba on the Dunga, you to go that ninja some such. And the onge, and Dunga, Teba Mayo, that Tapchikarichiguto. What that you call Tapchicher and Yankoge, Chevat Ota Tigbares, Gabjomarwa. They are misunderstanding Mebache.
And so it's very important that we don't misunderstand this attitude of compassion for the perpetrator as some sort of as if it was supporting their action, and that we have compassion for the person, and we of course disapprove of the action, and that this is something that we must kind of maintain together with that compassion. Compassion is not in any way an expression of support for the action. Compassion is kind of recognizing that the person is under the influence of that mental affliction, and one is kind of looking for the skillful means to be able to transform their attitude, so that, you know, we look for what they a kind of like a really opportunity to point out their incorrect thinking, and make sure that our timing is right, to choose the right moment, and that when things have calmed down and there's the right atmosphere in which to broach the topic, that we should do that. Because we have that as part of our compassion, we are invested in the welfare of that being, to make sure that they put a stop to this perpetuating of causes for suffering for themselves.
Yeah, I did this. So
then we leave it there for today.
Yeah, that the because of the Lama to be on the set up, but Lama to on the set up, you just set up your shop. You just set up your shop, and it then, and it because of the Lama to be on the set up Attila, and those Chocom Tosida. And then Lama to be on body because of the Nangla Ranchim Mebachi, Kumbashe.
So again, we bring our minds to the figure of the Guru Manindra, Shakyamuni Buddha, the merit field in front, and we try to use placement meditation just to fix our attention on the Guru Buddha, and to again bring our minds to understand that here the Buddha does not exist in the way he appears. He is completely lacking any inherent existence.
Nala, Ranchim Mebachi. Nala Ranchim Mebachi, what in the Kumbashe, Rota Sange Lama to be on body, and the chicken because of the Rawane to a Mebachi. Lama to be on body, and the chicken because of the and chicken. You saw Mongo just saw a dinner, right? Nianju Changse Yang Taba, Taganishing, Kitchen Thomas Sumla Soba, and Chosa, Mambung want to draw a dinner, and 가서데 안 팀이 바자다 제바 빵전에 구시 공방에도 제바 된대 저게 라완에 주바 많이 겠지 그게 뭐 뭐질라 때네 아니 차티겠지 그러와 차티겠지
But the Buddha, of course, is not self-powered or self-established, but has come about on the basis, independent upon the collection of many different causes. The mind of renunciation of the mind of enlightenment and the correct view of emptiness, the collection of merit over 3 countless eons, all of these different causes are part of the collection on the basis of which the Buddha has arisen, and is in no way inherently so.
What did the chatting? What did you combat? What did it? And then that's some jet Tamjag to and Sanjay. What did it? That the name by Inzata, so there. Come to Dwari to Kabas condition Kiva Dunga the Chaba to Jig Dunga Gue. That Chaba to Jig Dunga letter. That was at the budget that Chate. That the name by the Chaba to Jig Dunga the Yosato and the she then and Dunga to Gue to Nigi want to or that you want to get. What that delay into that comes to Dwari to Kawakiwa in there and Chicasa Dunga Shil and Mideva. The name by that Tilia Matana Tamento, such a combat and Dunga Media was telling you about your Yanjo get combat.
Now we then start to focus on the creation of the appropriate mandala seat on our own crown by reflecting on the 6 realms of cyclic existence, and indeed wherever anyone is born, anywhere within these realms, they are subject to suffering. They're subject to the suffering of suffering, to suffering of change, and in particular to the pervasive suffering that induces the other 2 categories of suffering, and that wherever one is born within these 6 realms never gets beyond that suffering. And so that brings about a sense of renunciation, of wanting that definite emergence from that state of a cyclic existence. And this is symbolized by the lotus mandala seat.
Then, Chinanga Chokandishi when I call you then the Juba second, but do some medication. You then the Juba Yuma, and call then the Jungsa Yomada, then the Jung, because you did the Jugumi about that thing with you did the Juba, but do something into something, and it's because of the simple Choba Combashi, and it did give a lot, and you make him Yakan and the payment and the Neso Sans Combashi.
And so and then we start to focus on the fact that all internal and external phenomena lack any objective existence, and they're merely imputed, and that they are in no way an independent entities. The very fact of their being dependent realities shows that they cannot arise independently, and that they therefore don't exist in that way truthfully or inherently, even at the atomical level. And that is symbolized by the moon, the sun disk mandala seat.
Tene Juma, Umere, that didn't the Tamshi Shemeva, that didn't join you by into, oh, that didn't you into, or that Sanjay Comasing that didn't that you want to watch it to it. Sanjay Comat, you are the cousin that you chicken enjoy just a young Tabata, such a longer trouble, you know, that Sanjay Comat, you saw to get Chata toy, not Sanjay Comasing that for young choice. Or that the troop to a Jama, the Maduna, the Kennedy, some such an attack. Subject time to go Sanjay Kumato, Tigumoto, Tobachi, some combacha. Tony Donda never till a dinner, Sanjay Kumas, you but never get too much. Ngeba to Bachan. What are the legend? What are some Jata Sanja Koma don't come to Juba Chigi, sons of what the legend Kombashe, and then they go to Bate, directing what Yakawaji Nime to Neso, some such.
So that is very reality of the fact that phenomena arise dependently offers every possibility. If they were all independent and objectively existent, then there'd be no possibility of any transformation, change, movement. And so it's this capacity for progress, transformation that is offered by that reality of everything arising in dependence. That means that we cultivate renunciation, the correct view of the mind of enlightenment itself, and all of the merit that can be accumulated while going through the paths and grounds to enlightenment is all there possibility, all there available to us. And so I can really renew a very powerful urge to attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And combining that with my view of emptiness, I really gain conviction in that process. And that then is symbolized, that mind of enlightenment is symbolized by the moon disk mandala suit.
There's a Padesa, Lama Rambocha, Dagi, two open with the country of Kusu to Mutu Seto, so the Chen, Lama Tubo, so the Rimbasum Chen, Tabu Capso, and Lama Tubo, Niva of the shoe, Sumek on the Tetution. That's Sanjay Komado was a Lama Tubo with Jesus, so the Kawako.
So we recite the invocation verse thrice. So glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moonsuit placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first verse recitation, the figure moves from the space in front towards our crown. At the end of the second, he has arrived at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third, we have that certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain the state of enlightenment and can rejoice in that.
What is it? And then I need to Yala Duba, Mende that Jabaji, Chazawan, Chanzawan, Tamjaka Chanju, Chingo, Sashi Peshi, but the religion, the Saint of Namda, Idango, Namdalabani, and Diamonds. That Siki Duka, some little Yala Duba, Tongish Bajakobashi, and what the legend of Tosanti Danja, Mende that Jabapi, what in the chair, and it the net, I can or the lecture, and the net, the console, young Kobashi Jojami, and the young Yanjung Samlusta, and it then Rota comes to Kawaki with the Tungele Mideva, but Miss Katsuda Tungele, that Mideva in body, that Tungele, Tungele Mideva, Tungegi, Rashi, but in Yavanine, and in telling Yavacho Yanjos Kobashi, and the Rangini diplomat of Geshe, some such, and the Chinaga Church, you then to what two times the Yanjo Kobashi Joja. Koda choba kumbashi, and Gacha Kasam de la Semto shot, and the nigger Tony Neve Loti, and Nimejum Yako shoes or something. That Tony get Tawa dealer. You dig it. When you get to you then to do some Yabayans, dealer tene, and it Sanjay Comasa, you might never get to my chat. And it then was a Sanjay Comamatona coming to Toba Chili, something Comache, and then do my day, and it Davijin on Yakawaji, June, and it you made that Neso, so what the Comache.
And at this point, we offer the 7 limbs of practice and the mandala, and that we try to get beyond just making the words here, but also really instilling them with the meaning of what we are about, to really use this opportunity to accumulate virtuous merit and to purify negativity. Once again, then we begin the process of constructing an appropriate seating arrangement at our heart by going through the reflection on renunciation, of really seeing cyclic existence in the nature of suffering and wanting to gain definite emergence from that, and that producing the lotus mandala seat, and how all internal and external phenomena like any inherent existence, even at the atomical level, that they are merely imputed, and that we really have kind of conviction in that process, producing the wisdom and the sun disk mandala seed. And that as a result of that view of emptiness, really, justifying that phenomena arise in dependence, that it allows for our aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings by being laying down all the causes that would lead to that they are now validated. And that really, asserting our personal desire, I will attain that state of enlightenment to benefit all sentient beings, being the mind of enlightenment, which is symbolized by the moon disk mandala seed.
어느 반대자에 라마 림보체 다른 니가 빼면데 그저 구수도 좀 그래서 선대체네 아니 랑게 집어네 마비서 왜 남바체지 마 쇼네 아니 랑게 니가 가서 마 담비 가서 빼 니가 가서 스버 텐저 산제 고마도 제 소소 섬자체 아니 되네 빼마 다제도 마 이제 가서 남비 니 내다 네가 도지가 생각하지 제가 제 가게 디 다고도 아니 또 배청가 다이도 뭐는 마서 다이도 뭐는 스테르 버스 거 되겠지 되네 지저 잡아야 거 순간 알아봐서 나 디디디디디디디 basung ko de che tene ga tende ga nga omo yeda ma yedo ma shamana yiso tende basung ko de che wo de ti yuso lama shaja sing pe kusum khora shu yo samsa che wo de ani lama shaja sa kusum to la wesa pa do ma rang chi wo ne kandi ga pa la wesa chene 아니 토마면 디바데 캐바도 야다 지금 미게 주문 거 쓰던다 겨와 라소베 다 가져져 다 제대로 생각 토마면 써베 다 디바데 디바 미 저거 제가 가는 것도 라신 가다 보면 내가 간지 싸워 있네 봐 장전 딱바 중소 삼사체 바다니 아니 다가니 지금 소다 도바다 거 자주서 말라와 상하 단티다 거게 세디야 생각만 뒤가말라서 처음에 보는 다 지금 도바다 담시게 내가 간지 싸워 바다 장치 다소 삼사체 아니 되네들 가서도 지금 랑게 루게 나자 다 쳐주게 게게 루게 나자 생각 동에 중시 코먼요 자롱 til에 경거래 좀 장치 다와 중소 삼사 어디네 코바시
And so then we have produced this appropriate seating arrangement, and so we make our invocation again. O glorious and precious Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation of that verse, the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha begins the journey down through our crown chakra into the central channel. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our seat. And yet at the end of the third, we have again that certainty that they will remain with us until we attain the state of enlightenment. We rejoice at that point. And then also the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white five-pronged vajra. And then surrounded by three mantras, the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of the pendant arising in a clockwise direction. And then from within, light rays begin to emanate from the heart center of the Buddha within, permeating through every cell of our bodies, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, and really affecting a very powerful purification of all negativities that we have accumulated since beginningless time, of all negativities associated with breaking the ethical conduct of avoiding the 10 non-virtues, and that we really feel that, all of those the negativities that we have accumulated in this life, and the one previous to this, and so on, going back to beginningless time, all naturally occurring faults, those proscribed by the Buddha, that all of those which have occurred, we really feel that they are completely and utterly purified, even at the imprint level. and all of our infractions of the Pratimoksha Bodhisattva or tantric vows are also cleansed and purified. That all of the obstacles to our being able to engage in spiritual practice, being for sickness and illness and disease of the body, and issues with the mind, that these are all purified and cured, that all negativities that we have accumulated are completely purified.
아니 저 뉴도 산제 고마 더력이 객체시도 가서 담에 나셔를 담에 나셔 교원 탐제바 자네 가나타자 다바람 좀 바시 차도 야무시 총소 사서 공바시 근데 이거서다 심제 탐제거도 다 오래 다 다바람 좀 바시 차네 아니 근데 다 디저 랑게 신도 터 롱데 니랭게체 라마샤자스게 꾸들 현재 지금처럼 소소류도 라마샤자스 꾸로 교수 삼사체 랑게 신도 터 셈데 니랭게 라마샤자스게 투들 현재 지금처럼 랑게 셈데 라마샤자스가 툴라 교수 섬서차 아니 랑게 룽아 예수다 라마샤자스 구송도 뭐 예매 교수 섬서다 야뭐 시우 종수 섬자타 산제 고마리 니마테리 조토수 섬서 공바샤 아니 대대와 대외동 대돈 예수 위시교수 섬서차 랑 내사가 내대야 내고 교원 탐자 다네 라마샤자스가 다베 시도 교수 섬서차 다 라마샤자스가 구송도 뭐 예매 교와테 나나라시 매바지 공바샤 이 두가라 라마샤자스가 빠도 매버 뜨네 아니 sem제가 장다니 뭐 파트도 sem제를 라마샤자스가 차상와를 아니 슈와라 때네 안 스제다 단제자 라마샤자스 구수도 뭐 예매 교수 선자체 대다가 내대다 내가 교원 단제잖아 라마샤자스가 다비시도 교수 선 오다 야고 시우죠 sem제 탐제 산제 고만라 고용에서 다 니마 드리고 투수 선에는 가고
And of course, then the greatest obstacle to our being able to quickly progress to the state of enlightenment being ordinary appearance. This is really discredited and kind of it's replaced by being able to proceed with pure appearance. And that here, then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of the Buddha. And through the combination of my own most subtle mind or consciousness acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And I see myself then as inseparable. My body, speech, and mind is inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. And that this is something that is really wonderful. This is something that, today is the day of being able to attain that state of enlightenment. I can experience bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And the place that I am in also now is completely transformed from its ordinariness and its faultiness into a perfect enlightened abode. And then seeing myself as a fully enlightened Buddha and completely lacking any inherent existence, I send out light rays equal in number to all the sentient beings in all the 6 realms of existence. And as those lights dissolve into all those sentient beings, they spontaneously arise as fully enlightened Buddhas. And they see themselves now as inseparable from fully enlightened Buddhas. The place that they are in also is transformed of all faults and becomes a perfect abode of an enlightened being. And again, I rejoice that today is the day of being able to do this, to lead all the sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. That's wonderful. This leading of all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment, the virtue which has facilitated that, and myself as the agent of that virtue, all completely empty of any objective existence. They do not exist even at the atomical level. They are merely imputed by form.
Oh yeah, that did it. That did that. Don't remember you just alone. Tap the Bushida Yomarwa, Ina that day, some of town and Shin, that Munakora, Nimachi, Mosukora, the district to Yageta, Chick Yomagi, Kulangoa Chieta, and did you, Dionala, Soso Sandia Comato, Tomato, Ditobala, and because Tony Nijibuchika, Laval Malona, Tomato, the day you might that, Karichego Sanata, Sosuge. Because the Donna, Sana, Tuna, Netan, Kanechawa Ibayina, Tiga, Tony Nijibuka Lamcula cake, and kill a twinkle chat to a jet. Tamashiba in a Shiva, the Lama, because Tony Nijibuka Lamcula cake, twinkle chat to a jet, because of the cook-up sim yet, catch about it. What? Jeshake sim jen, Jabata shashing a simne, and they cook up some to a jet. What did the chick?
And of course, we are operating here at the level of aspiration and imagination. Of course, this is not something that can simply manifest as easily as that. But nevertheless, when it comes to my dedication, I want to really pledge that I want to actually actualize what I'm visualizing here as quickly as possible into something that is really, really going to happen. I know that an essential part of that, of the necessity of really attaining enlightenment, is to perfect compassion and mind the wisdom of emptiness. And so I really pledge that, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, that in all situations, whatever arises, even at the point of death, that I will be able to not only see all these situations as opportunities to cultivate that mind of enlightenment, that compassion, that wisdom, but also to really seize that opportunity as much as I possibly can. And I really see the central role of mindfulness and alertness in being able to be present at this time, to be able to see all these situations as opportunity.
Shall I so wide? May
You are Avalokiteshvara, great feather of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception, Tongkapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losam Drakpa at your feet and make requests.
That's all. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Take care. Yeah.